Well, this just in, folks. It seems that Beijing-controlled media in Canada was used to enable election interference. Now, I know that sounds preposterous and outrageous until you consider the fact that there are or were Chinese police stations operating in our Great Dominion. So if there is unofficial Chinese law enforcement occurring here, then hey, why not Beijing orchestrated propaganda ploys too? Incredible. And joining me now for more information on this story is Rebel News contributor Andy Lee. Hey, Andy, welcome to the Ezra Levant Show.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's good
thank you for joining me. Wow, I remember back in the 80s, I used to listen to a band from England called China Crisis. But China Crisis is more than a title for an English new wave band. It's what's happening right now in Canada, it would appear, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. Andy, what is this latest affront all about in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know if it's getting worse and worse, more that it's coming to the forefront. I think it's been going on for a very long time. So Sam Cooper has, received some more CSIS documents, leaked some CSIS documents that outline that there is a campaign, a pro-Beijing campaign. It's apparently massively funded. This isn't entirely surprising, and we've done some work and some original reporting on some of those media outlets that are tied to the Chinese Communist Party and the United Front Work Department. So we did put out an article, and I'm going to put out more on one establishment that's called Red Maple News. And the president of Red Maple News also works for Russia Today. She goes overseas. She goes to the political conferences for the United Front Work Department, and she also volunteers for Justin Trudeau and has got some personal invite to Parliament Hill from Justin Trudeau. But I mean, this isn't, again, it's not shocking. There's a lot of these media outlets. Mostly they operate in foreign language media. They go a little bit under the radar. Behind the scenes, they work with Xinhua and China News Service, and things like that. Now, these are entities, of course, that are considered foreign missions in the United States. These are the kinds of establishments that definitely, in one instance, this particular volunteer for the Liberal Party who met with Justin Trudeau, she did go to Parliament Hill, and then she went and reported that back to China News Service. So she's obviously working for foreign missions. So these are the kind of people who could be subjected to a foreign agent registry if we ever get that piece of legislation in place. So we've been doing work on that. But Sam Cooper's documents outline something a little bit new, and that was that mainstream media has also been targeted in what he called a massively funded foreign influence campaign. So that was a bit of a bombshell revelation. And again, not surprising that we've got, Chinese-based news outlets, and this volunteer who works for Trudeau, she does have an office in China. So she is partly based out of China. So not entirely shocking that she would be cozying up to political leaders and trying to push some pro-Beijing messaging and things like that, and doing some work for the United Front. Not shocking, but a little bit shocking to find it in our domestic stations right here at home.
It's just incredible. First of all, I won't even get into the abhorrent conflict of interest here with this individual, but I think it's all making sense, Andy. Some 10 years ago, Blackface said at a meeting with exclusively women in Toronto that he had admiration in his heart for the basic dictatorship of China in terms of getting things done. I mean, the idea that a future Western leader would have admiration for the tyranny of China.
Trudeau's meeting last week with a group of Toronto women was an example. Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
Is astonishing in and of itself. But when it comes to getting things done, you have to wonder, what did he mean by getting things done? Like, electoral interference that's going to benefit blackface in the long run? Is that what he was talking about? And I guess that's my question. All this tinkering and meandering, as far as you can tell, Andy, has it been effective for the Liberals?
It's very, very difficult to gauge. We know that interference happened. They say that it wasn't enough to affect the election results. I think it's very, very hard to gauge, again, because there is, a lot of these electoral and campaigns and things like that are pushed by people who might have ties to the Chinese Communist Party or ties to the United Front. And when I say that, I mean that this isn't under dispute. Some of them have got personal invitations that I've seen from Xi Jinping, inviting them to meetings overseas like this. So this isn't in dispute that they have dual loyalties if they're not outright here working for China. So a lot of them run hometown associations. We know that they stem from some main ones, and then they branch off. And there's hundreds of these. I mean, they consist of tens of thousands of members who are probably sympathetic to those causes. I'm not going to say that every Chinese community association is a united front operation. That's not the case at all. And a lot of them literally do good work in the community. And that's how they sort of get away with this, is they fall into this gray zone where maybe they're not outright committing something that might be considered criminal in our country yet, unless we get some sort of stronger legislation. But they do definitely have some underlying motivation and some loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party.